No one has been in the NHL without a title for as long as the Toronto Maple Leafs. The cheers from their 1967 Stanley Cup victory have long since been silenced, marking 56 years of relentless pursuit. Through dance of 21 coaches, 15 general managers, and a stream of players, the answer to a haunting question remains elusive. Why does success elude this iconic franchise? Let's find out. On the unforgettable night of May 2nd, 1967, as the Toronto Maple Leafs basked in the euphoria of their Stanley Cup victory, their goaltender, Johnny Bower, subtly slipped away 2 bottles of celebratory champagne. His intent? To uncork them when the Leafs once again stood atop the NHL's peak. Yet Bower was pragmatic, understanding that reclaiming their throne would take more than a year, 2 or even 3. The victorious squad of 1967 was an aging constellation of stars, 7 members aged above 35, including Bower himself. This victory served as their swan song, their final magnificent dance on the grand stage. Furthermore, 1967 was a turning point for the NHL as it bid farewell to the era of the original 6, evolving from a sextet to a dozen teams. This seismic shift reshuffled teams' rosters as seasoned veterans were offered to the newly formed squads. Toronto said a bitter farewell to goalie Terry Sawchuk, the final game's linchpin against Montreal, who departed for Los Angeles, and 4-time champion defenseman Bob Bond, who left for Oakland. Bower, who lived to the ripe age of 93, never got the chance to celebrate another title with the Maple Leafs. As the years rolled on in unfruitful silence, he gradually accepted the fate of his cherished team. In a poignant moment in 1998, Bower uncorked one of these long-held champagne bottles, celebrating not a championship but his golden wedding anniversary with his beloved wife. The miserable 70s and 80s. Toronto's failure to smoothly navigate the transition to an expanded competition involving 12 teams was one thing. The squad didn't even manage to secure a spot in the playoffs the subsequent season. The city's hockey franchise was crippled by a woeful farm system, rendering them incapable of properly replacing outgoing athletes. Like Montreal, they couldn't exchange in lucrative exchanges of high draft picks for seasoned professionals, were then honed into valuable assets like Guy Lafleur, Steve Shutt, Bob Gainey, Doug Risebrough, and Mario Tremblay, all of whom became multiple Stanley Cup champions. One would expect that any club having made such errors and endured such missteps would eventually bounce back. A recovery period of 5, 8, 10, or even 12 seasons is plausible for most, but for Toronto, this was simply not the case. The Maple Leafs' fortune took a turn for the worse in 1971. Businessman Harold Ballard acquired majority ownership of the team. His management style was riddled with controversy. Ballard viewed the Leafs as his personal toy, firing coaches and managers at will, scrimping on contracts amidst increased spending by others, and openly clashing with players and journalists. Despite assembling a strong team in the late 1970s with the likes of Daryl Sittler, Borje Salming, and Lanny McDonald, they only achieved a single semifinal. The 1980s were truly dismal in terms of results, and for the most part, play and Ballard let the competition run away with him by a mile. But when he died in 1990, there was no golden era. New owner Steve Stavro fixed many things, but over time he ran into financial problems and the big ambitions were over. For example, when he had a chance to sign Wayne Gretzky in 1996 without breaking the bank because the legendary player wanted to return to his home province and knew he could make millions of dollars in the big market just by advertising, Stavro turned it down. Stavro reportedly argued, "Why would we sign him? We sell out every game and Gretzky won't attract a single additional fan to our stadium." Following Stavro, ownership of the club transferred to the Ontario Teachers' Pension Fund from 2003 to 2012, which was not just the steward of the team, but the entire enterprise, encompassing the arena and the NBA's Toronto Raptors. Understandably, the fund's primary objective was to increase its investment value rather than secure a Stanley Cup win. The resulting years mirrored this focus, financially fruitful but hockey-wise disheartening. worse than Vegas. The team's record serves as a rude awakening for every Toronto fan. Their last victorious playoff run took place way back in 2004, before the salary cap, but finally in this season, they won playoff series against Tampa Bay Lightning. The team fell at the first hurdle 4 times in 7 games in the previous 5 seasons, leading 3-2 twice and 3-1 once. To put it bluntly, since their glorious year in 1967, the Maple Leafs have not only failed to clinch the Stanley Cup, but have not even reached the finals. This is unlike teams like Las Vegas, which only started playing in the NHL in 2017. Clubs like Anaheim, San Jose, Ottawa, Nashville, and of course Tampa Bay, all of whom joined the NHL in the 1990s during the expansion, all have better results. Adding to the frustration for Maple Leafs fans, Toronto's other sports franchises, the Blue Jays baseball team, World Series champions in 1992 and 1993, the Raptors basketball team, 2019 NBA champions, and even Toronto FC soccer team, 2017 MLS champions, have all tasted victory relatively recently. In contrast, only those of a certain age can recall the last hockey trial. A joke from the 1980s encapsulates this. What do the Maple Leafs and the Blue Jays have in common? Neither can play hockey. Toronto is not alone among traditional clubs to have struggled, however. Detroit had a rough patch in the 70s and 80s, but rebounded with a Stanley Cup win in 1997 and added 3 more later. Similarly, Chicago turned a sad start to the millennium around with titles in 2010, 2013, and 2015. White and blue disease. The Maple Leafs' failures have many speculated causes. Some fans believe the team's consistent sellouts at home games prevent the owners from acknowledging their underperformance. However, the effectiveness of a fan boycott to force better organizational decisions is unproven. The importance of gate receipts has lessened over the past 20 years due to increased revenue from sponsorships and TV rights. Another prevalent theory points to intense scrutiny from Toronto's hockey-obsessed public, with each misstep heavily criticized, possibly adding undue pressure on players and management. Despite facing similar pressures, the Canadiens have a better track record since 1967, having only waited 3 decades for a title, even reaching the finals 2 years ago. Other globally scrutinized teams like Bayern, Real, Chelsea, Juventus, Red Sox, Yankees, and the Lakers regularly win significant trophies. A more accurate explanation for the Maple Leafs' plight might be Brian Burke's white and blue disease, a phenomenon where the Toronto media's often uncritical praise led to player complacency and stalled development. This might explain why no Toronto player has ever won the Art Ross Trophy for most productive NHL player since its inception in 1948. Additionally, recently Austin Matthews became the first Maple Leaf in 67 years to win the Hart Trophy. No team member has been named the best defenseman or goalie since the Vezina Trophy was awarded based on votes in 1981. In blue, disease appears to be an affliction that doesn't spare general managers, Burke included, even if they've tasted success elsewhere. In Toronto, there's a perceived need to go above and beyond to demonstrate their prowess and achieve phenomenal results. This pressure often leads to ill-advised trades. One can't forget the infamous Tuukka Rask to Boston deal, overspending on free agents, and so on. There's a general lack of patience and a tendency to prioritize short-term success over a secure future, against hope that a single big move will redefine the franchise's modern trajectory. They dream that the next Tavares, Phaneuf, Simmons, Thornton, Marleau, O'Reilly, or whoever they'll bring will be the game changer. As Burke points out, another dimension to this puzzle is the significant number of players hailing from Ontario. These players have a deep-seated desire to make a mark in Toronto, with the watchful eyes of their families and friends, and in games that captivate Eastern Canada's audiences. They may struggle elsewhere, but their performance reaches new heights when they play in Toronto. For some reason, they can't seem to muster the same intensity against other teams as they do against the Maple Leafs, and there's always an extra layer of drama when ex-Toronto players return. Moreover, a trend that hasn't escaped the notice of Maple Leafs fans, and to their chagrin, is the uncanny ability of their former players to win the Stanley Cup shortly after departing the club. The list includes notable names like Phil Kessel, who won with Pittsburgh in 2016 and 2017, Bozak, who claimed the cup with St. Louis in 2019, and Nazem Kadri, who tasted victory with Colorado in 2022. It's almost become an unwritten rule, but one question remains: will it be soon? Will someone new be added to the roster, and the reason why the blue-white curse endures will be addressed again, or will Toronto finally enjoy a hockey celebration after 57 years next season? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more reviews and content. Until the next one, keep it cool.